In one case, I asked a student whether or not she liked the feeling of being in love. Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Today, I would like to continue the conversation of processes. In the previous video, I talked about a concept of processes, and processes were connected to the basic elements of output, input, scenarios, and choice. We haven't talked about input, scenarios, and choice, but that's because we're still talking about output. And in output, there are two main ideas. One idea is about performance. That's talking about the output of your employees. And the second is about systems. And that's talking about the output of your processes. It's important to understand the output of your employees, obviously, but sometimes it can be a challenge. And that's not the thing that I want to talk about today. It's true that there are a couple of checklists from the book Create Crucial Insight that can help you understand the two main factors that influence an employee's ability to produce. But we're not going to talk about that today. I want to continue talking about processes. And if you have the book Create Crucial Insight, then turn to the section on state styles. There is truly a value chain of processes. And what is the most valuable process in the value chain? It's something called automation. And what is the least valuable type of process in the process value chain? And that's obviously the situation where you have no process at all. Everyone starts from a position of having zero process, and the best companies are able to automate much of their processes. Over the last week, as I've been talking to different people, a lot of people have been trying to figure out how to become a better manager, and they've been talking about their relationships with their employees. In one case, I asked a student whether or not she liked the feeling of being in love. And of course, I think everyone likes the feeling of being in love. The problem is that at the beginning, the feeling of love is very easy. And after a while, what happens is you actually experience the processes of life. And many of the processes of life require a certain level of service with the members of the family. If you have a husband who is unwilling to achieve the level of service that is required and demanded from the wife, then it's going to be a problem with her. And if the wife is unable to achieve the level of service demanded by the husband, then it's going to be a problem for the husband. And so you have this relationship where we're making these holy bonds of matrimony, and what it really should be is a contract about what level of service that you're willing to provide to the other party. Now, it's not really like that in real life. And what happens is every day you start to notice things, and you start to notice processes, and then you start to notice that there isn't a certain level of service that you'd like. And then you start to see things that you never saw before. And then sometimes you have an attitude or you have an inability to provide a level of service for the other person. And eventually people get upset. And then suddenly that feeling of love goes away. I think much of a relationship is the ability to negotiate these elements of what level of service that you would like from your partner. And of course, this sounds like we're talking about that first element, that idea of performance. And actually, I want to avoid talking about those elements of performance, but rather returning to the discussion about the value chain of processes. So you enter a relationship with some processes, and the processes, they don't seem to be very well defined. And everyone's happy to perform those processes. And then over time, the strong relationships, the people who really enjoy their relationship with each other, are the people who are able to define what types of processes will make them happy. All right, so let's jump over to an example. Imagine you want to go fishing. If you want to go fishing, then there are basically 6 things that you have to decide. And each of these things have a process. Number 1 is, what kind of fish do you want to catch? You need to actually label and list the type of fish that you want. After you've decided the type of fish that you want, then you need to find out, where are those fish located? Are they lake fish? Are they river fish? Are they ocean fish? Finally, after you drive to that location, then you need to figure out how to get the fish closer to your boat or closer to the shore where you're standing. And in order to do that, you use a lure. Finally, you have to have some kind of bait so that the fish is willing to nibble on the hook. And once you get them nibbling on the hook, yank, you have to set the hook in order to be able to finally reel them in. This is connected to the concept that we were talking about in the last video. In the last video, we were talking about that sales funnel, the concept of know and like and trust and try and eventually buy. So we have this funnel, and the first thing that we do is we have to know and like. All right, so what's your process in order to create social media and different types of media and advertising to attract attention? How do you get people to know you, and how do you get people to like you? This is related to the concept of fish. What kinds of fish do you want to attract? Another way to put that is customer segments. What are your customer segments? And do you have a process in order to identify the types of customers that you're looking to attract? Every company is going to have different customer segments. And in a blue ocean concept, then you're trying to find new markets for your product. In a red ocean situation, you are trying to compete for a market which already exists. But in either case, you have to identify the customer segments that you're interested in and then figure out where they are. And once you find them, that's when you start to deploy these marketing messages. In order to attract attention, to get people to know you, you have to create a lure. And again, the question is, do you have a process for consistently producing content that can attract attention? Do you have a lure? Do you know what is going to turn heads? Do you know what people are interested in? Do you know how to catch attention? And once you've caught their attention, then you have to give them something that is going to be delicious. All right. So how are you going to get them to bite? How are you going to get them to trust you? Now, at this point, there's a little bit of a disconnect because in fishing, you're trying to get the fish to trust you so that you can set the hook and then eventually eat them. But in business, you're trying to provide a service or product that the other person will be satisfied with. In either case, you have to have a process for bait. The bait is your actual product, and you have to be able to fill in that distance between they know and like, they're starting to trust me, and they're actually going to buy my product. And that means you're in that consideration section. How do you get people in the consideration section to actually start nibbling on the bait? How do you get them to try? It's a process. And where is it on the process value chain? Is it a process that you have not created yet? Is it something that you need to create? Is it haphazard? In the state style direct outcomes checklist, Dr. Buchholz uses the concept of haphazard. It means like you're running through a forest and somebody is on the edge of the forest saying, "Hey, over here." And then you're like blindfolded. You can't see anything and you're walking and boom, you hit your head on a tree and whoop, you fall into a hole. And it's very difficult to achieve that objective. All of these ideas point to processes, and it's important in your business endeavors that you figure out where you are on the process value chain and then create those processes in order to get better output.